here's what we're going to do today. And I'll give just one or two more moments for some other women to hop on, but there is going to be plenty of time for like true actual coaching with you, especially towards the end. So just know, like, please be thinking about questions. What do you want support around? Like I said, I really desire to have an actual conversation with you, not just chat, talk at you the whole time. So I think let's do this. Let's go ahead and get started because I want to really honor each of you for your time, for your presence, for being here, and we will kick right off. So here's what I will say to start: is that in my journey, I have had the privilege to speak for, coach, and train thousands of individuals in the financial services and insurance space over the past 7 to 8 years. Many of them are women. And like I said, I care deeply about connecting with you personally. And in my experience, I've seen there is this huge missing part of the conversation, just looking at your goals of, growing the business, overcoming procrastination, right? And there's this huge missing piece of what it actually takes to do that we don't talk about a lot in our sales training. And so I'm going to be sharing today how I came across that in my own life, what transformed when I really started implementing what I'm going to teach you. And then, like I said, I want to have time for plenty of dialogue and live coaching at the end. So please, Gretchen, I see you're working your desk, servicing your book, listening in. Beautiful. I'm so glad to have you here. I love interaction in the chat. So please type in the chat as we go. If you have an aha, if you have an epiphany, if you have a question, like I said, I'll be taking those at the end. I'm really going to probably teach for only about half of our time today, because my intention is to have space for coaching and conversation with you at the end. Jarrell is saying consistency and follow-ups are my main focus for my business. Beautiful. Okay, I love it. So here is what I want to start with, is asking you 3 core questions. And you can type them in the chat if you like. You can answer them to yourself. But number one, and I think I already know the answer to this, do you want to make more money? Do you want to make more money? And I see Dawn nodding her head. So yes, right. We all do. Dallas saying, heck yes, yes. Second question. And again, if you are comfortable, you can type it in the chat. If you want to keep it to yourself, you can do that too. How much more? How much more do you want to make? And number 3, what's holding you back? What is holding you back from making more? So I too, in my own life, I wanted to make more money for such a long time. And I've sold a ton of different things in my career. I personally have not sold insurance, but I've coached and mentored, like I said, thousands of producers in insurance and financial services. But I'll share a little more of my background as we go here. But I knew for a long time that I wanted to make more money, and I knew how much more I wanted to make. And I had a purpose for the money too. And let's see if I can share my screen here. Oh, Tracy, if you hear me, can you please give me permission to share my screen? Because I want to share a couple of slides here, and it looks like you need to enable participant. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. Let's do this. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that okay there. But so I had these visions of things for my life, things I knew I wanted to do, like retire my husband over here and on the right, so that he could pursue his dream of going to medical school and getting a new dream house and taking luxury trips, making bigger donations to causes that I personally care about, like animals and, and children's rights as well. And then also creating a better lifestyle for my little guy, Jack, right here in the corner. But even though for a decade I was in sales and I had the opportunity to make truly unlimited income, which is, part of why we do this, right? I stayed stuck financially. And it took me that long too, to figure out what was holding me back. And at first I thought I needed all of these different things, like just a new sales script, a better sales script, a new territory, better clients, better leadership, bigger goals, smaller goals, more accountability, less accountability, new mindset, a new career, new opportunities, you name it, right? I thought I needed those things. And the list truly goes on and on. And I spent 10 years on just a hamster wheel, spinning my wheels, trying every new tactic, learning every new technique, and investing in classes, seminars, courses, coaches, and conferences. And I want you to even check in with yourself right now as I share this, like, how much can you relate to that? How much do you feel like you are on some of that proverbial hamster wheel where you feel like you're doing all the things, and yet the needle isn't moving, at least not to the extent that you desire in your life, right? Like I see Jarrell's goal in the chat of 100K this year. I love it. Beautiful. Dawn, your self-awareness there is so powerful. My lack of faith in myself is holding me back. Thank you for sharing that, because that is what often is the thing that holds us back. Angie's saying, yes, you can relate. And so I had been like just stuck in that hamster wheel for so long too. And I get it if you feel like you're there right now. And I was doing good, but not great. And all of those things I tried, courses, coaches, conferences, seminar, et cetera, they helped a little bit, but there was never that quantum leap that I was looking for. And I was still falling short of where I wanted to be. And I was trying so hard too, working all the time. And again, can you relate to that? Do you feel like there's never enough hours in the day? Do you feel like you work so hard, but if you really check in with yourself, you're like, it's not actually moving the needle, or it's not getting the results I thought it would? And so in my own life, I ended up going on this journey to discover what was missing. Now, I am secretly very nerdy, and I started nerding out on things like neuroscience, the subconscious mind, discovering like relationship with money. What does that really look like? And why do I always want more, but I feel like I can't make more? And I realized that all of my focus up until that point had been on what I was doing, not on who I was being. So check in right now. Are you focusing on what you're doing more than who you're being? And when I shifted the focus, true quantum leaps started happening, which I'll tell you about shortly. And first, though, before we get into that, I know for many of us, we're just meeting, but I feel like I can say with confidence that I know if you feel like there is a gap between you and your goals, I know what the problem is, because it's the same problem of every client I work with and every prospect that I talk to. And it's that you think to grow your sales, and what you've been told too is to grow your sales, to grow your book of business. You just need better scripts, better processes, more discipline, right? All of those things help. And I'm not saying that they don't, but here's the thing. Improving those will only lead to incremental gains. And if you want a true quantum leap, like the stories that I'm going to tell you about today, I want you to start looking inside to see, are you showing up in alignment with your goals? And we'll talk more today about what that looks like and how do you know and what are the steps. And so for any goal that you have that you haven't yet experienced or created in your career or in your personal life, the problem is simply that you aren't in alignment with it yet. But my goal today is to help you fix that. And so we're going to talk for the next little bit here about what alignment is, and then we'll spend the next little bit kind of unpacking that so you can start to truly experience that quantum leap in your career and in your life. And I'm just checking chat here. Tanya saying, you're speaking to me. I need to switch my focus. Oh, it's so powerful, Tanya, when you do. Yes. To India, I need to change my focus and have more confidence. Yes, I have not shown up like I expected. Yeah. And I have to tell you, like, I so appreciate the honesty of everyone in here, just having the ability to take the self-inventory. And one of the things I try to hold back from coaching until we get there, but I can't not, like, the coach in me can't not come out and want to help you with this. One of the words that I want to encourage every woman in here to decide that she gets to drop is the word need. I need to. This is actually a rule I make for my coaching clients. We are not available for overwhelm. So no one gets to use the word overwhelm. No one gets to use the word struggle. And the word need, we put so much pressure on ourselves. And I actually find that in general, pressure dilutes your power. And so I just want to invite each of you to play with language like, I'm excited to switch my focus. I'm excited to see what happens when I switch my focus. I'm available to switch my focus, right? Really being more in your power with your language, because we will talk about this more today. The words you speak to yourself are everything. So just playing with that and being way kinder to yourself as well. So let's talk about this. Gladys is saying, drop those words. It changes so much. All right, so I'm going to go back and share my screen. Let's talk about what alignment is here. Okay, great. So what is alignment? It's simply this. You've got this goal. You've got this vision. Like, I'm just going to use, whose goal was it? Jarrell, your goal was 100K. Beautiful. So Jarrell, so thank you for sharing your goal. The goal is 100K. So alignment with that would be looking at, do my thoughts, feelings, and action match the woman who has a $100,000 year, right? Do my thoughts, do my feelings, and do my actions match those of a woman who has a $100,000 year? There are these 3 pillars of alignment that we're going to hone in on today. We're actually going to go way deep into one. Number 1, your beliefs. This is your subconscious programming. Now, here's where it changed a lot for me when I started really studying the power of the subconscious. Your subconscious belief systems about what is possible for you, who you are, what results you have in the world, they account for 95 to 98% of your results. I want you to just take note of that for a moment. 95 to 98% of your results are based on your beliefs about what is true for you and what you can have in your life. The second pillar of alignment, your identity. Who are you being every day? And then here's the third, and this is big, especially for us as women. And this was the one I got super hung up on for so long that I didn't realize was tripping me up, was worthiness. Do you feel worthy of the amount of money you want to make? Do you have maybe some small judgment on it deep down though? And I know that may sound crazy, but trust me, if you desire to make more money, but there's any part of you that judges people who have more than you, or that thinks rich people are greedy, or whatever the phrase is that gets tossed around, right? And that we pick up on these limiting beliefs as kids, you will not make more money. I promise you, you won't. Because in your mind, making more money would also mean that you couldn't be a good person. And here is the truth. Ladies, your level of income will never exceed your level of self-worth. So if you are taking notes, I want you to write that down, because this changed my life when I really discovered this for myself. Your level of income will never exceed your level of self-worth. Now, for the sake of time today, we're not going to get into all 3 of those pillars. We are going to hone in on one, which is primarily shifting your identity. And then we'll also do a little bit around worthiness, is the hidden key to more sales. And so with that, I needed to hear that. Oh, Sarah, I'm so glad. That's great. Okay. So interesting fact about me. I'm going to share a little bit of my backstory here. I have been in some form of sales for about 2 decades. And thank goodness for a filter, right, ladies? Now, I'm going to give you some numbers here, and this is not for comparison, but just for context. So in my early 20s, I got into corporate sales. And when I do this with a live audience, I have people shout out, like, what do you think I sold? And people are like, oh, it was insurance or tech sales. No, it was something far sexier. It was the Yellow Pages. Now, I know some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. I know some of you do, and you're like, I don't want to admit that I know what she's talking about. Yes, I sold the yellow pages. And so, like I said, I'm a little older than I like to think I look. But anyway, so I got into sales, sold yellow pages, and I had this explosive and exponential growth right off the bat. And I made six figures in my first 2 years in sales. But then I flatlined for 10 years. I didn't go beyond that. And I couldn't break past that low six-figure mark, no matter what it was that I did. And when I think back to why, I think at the beginning I got comfortable. Gladys is saying, let your figures do the walking. Yeah, I got comfortable in the beginning, but then I still had this vision for more in my life, but I started to think it wasn't possible. And I started to feel like I should be satisfied with what I had. And, I was already working so hard, doing everything I knew how to do as well to make more money. And all this time, I had this desire for more and was investing tens of thousands of dollars into working with, coaches, many of whom were great, but the needle still wasn't moving. Now, during the time, what I wasn't sharing, because I felt like I had to keep this outer veneer on of having everything all together, was that I was in so much internal struggle about wanting more, but not feeling like I could have it, and desiring a greater vision for my life, but feeling like it was never going to happen, that I developed anxiety, panic attacks, and even an eating disorder. And so fast forward 10 years of being stuck in that kind of hellhole and doing good, but not great, and looking like I had it all together on the outside, but really struggling secretly on the inside. And I was working with a coach at the time who had me do this exercise called Your 5 Dream Lives. And I want to encourage each of you. I know some of you are driving right now, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to take you through it right now, but I do want to encourage you to take the time to do this later, because this really transformed my life. And essentially, you look at, if there are no consequences or limitations, and I could live out any 5 lifetimes for myself, what would they be? What would be included in that? And when I did this myself, these dream lives were outrageous to how I had viewed myself up until now. And I'll share here some images just of things that came up when I did this. And it was things like being a famous singer. Like, I was so embarrassed to write that down. But the problem with that is that I did sing growing up, but I had stopped singing after I was sexually assaulted in college. And then I had these visions of like being a philanthropist, a global philanthropist, and creating an animal sanctuary for healing for animals and where people could come as well. And when I did this exercise, I looked at these dream lives and I realized 2 things. And the first was that plenty of other people were also doing these things, and no one else had given them permission to do it. They had just done it, and that I was the only one holding myself back. And then I also looked at these dream lives and I realized they were going to take money, and a lot more than I was making at that point. And again, I had created a good life for myself, but not a great one, not one that would allow me to really step into those dream lives and create that true level of impact. And I just made this decision right then and there that I was willing to do whatever it took to finally break out of this rut of making the same amount of money and being on that hamster wheel and living this half-fulfilled life. And so you all know how it goes, I'm sure. You've had this experience where you ask and the universe delivers, right? It's like, are you serious about this? Okay, here you go. So the very next day after making this decision that I was going to do whatever it took, I heard an ad on the podcast of a coach I followed who specifically worked with women to help them get to 7 figures. And of course, she says she has room for 1 to 2 more private clients. And I think, all right, okay, universe, I'll bite. So I fill out her intake form, have a private call with her. It's yes, 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 this is perfect. And then she tells me the investment to work with her for 6 months. And it was half of what I'd made the whole year before. Now, keep in mind, I'd earned 100,000 the year before, and I hadn't socked half of that away for future unexpected coaching needs. But something inside of me told me that I had to make a change and I had to move forward. And like I said, I didn't have that money sitting around. And I know you all are in financial services and you may say, Elyse, this isn't what I tell a client to do. But here's what I did. You will always, when something is a must for you, you will always find a way. And to put it further, your must moves mountains. And so put the deposit on a credit card. And here's the truth in my own life and in yours too. To the extent that any goal in your life hasn't happened for you yet, it hasn't been a must yet. And this is where we get to be really real with ourselves and say, am I saying this is my goal because I think it sounds good? Or is this truly a deep down must for me? Because to whatever extent it has not happened yet, there is a part of you that has been available at some level for it not to happen. And again, when we get into coaching, we can kind of dig in deeper. I'm happy to dig in deeper on an individual basis to help you work through that if you want. But here's the thing. When it becomes a must, when you decide I am no longer available to stay stuck in this rut, stuck on this hamster wheel, saying no to the things that I really want to say yes to, living in struggle, living in anxiety, living in overwhelm. Like when we really wake up to the fact that we have a limited amount of time here and that we're the creators of our lives, when it becomes a must, there is often some sort of a big burn the ships, big scary type of action. But I want you to watch as you take that action and mountains finally move that seemed insurpassable to you before. So told my husband, and we're not going to get into a big thing about this, but listen, I didn't ask him permission. I told him what I was doing. I said, I'm putting this on a credit card. The morning before I go to make the deposit on the card, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm trembling, right? Like, what am I about to do? Am I about to put my family in ruin? Who am I to invest this much in myself, right? The limiting belief of how worthy am I? But I had made this commitment to myself that no matter what, I was going to do it. And so I clicked the order button and I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. And now I wish I could tell you that right away, everything changed, but it really didn't. It was actually about 3 weeks of a lot of fear and a lot of panic. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing because my family would have thought I was crazy, right? They were all kind of in the same middle-class mindset that I'd grown up in. I had these feelings of fear and unworthiness, like, who am I to do this? I can't do this. I can't afford this. I'm the breadwinner for my family. What did I just do to us? Like, who do I think I am? This isn't for women like me to say yes to ourselves on such a big level. And then the coach I hired had me doing things I didn't want to do. And I made the mistake of telling her about my dream lives and the one about singing publicly. She challenged me to sing publicly on social media. So I started doing things like that. And I don't know why this is the song that I chose, but for any of you who are Nelly fans, I sang Dilemma with my little guy there right now. Again, like out of body experience. I launched a new group program and I had massive limiting beliefs about whether a whole group of women would want to work with me. And I was paying money I didn't have in the bank all along too. But in 6 weeks, and I want you again to pay attention to the timing, it was 10 years of being stuck. In 6 weeks of acting like a totally different person, I had turned my annual income into my monthly income. I had launched a new brand. And I went on to earn 7 figures in my first year of running that brand. And I was able to actually start to step into those dream lives that had shown up in that exercise, retire my husband from his job, donate large amounts of money to causes I care about, create jobs and opportunities for people. And we are now in the beginning stages of starting that sanctuary that was my dream. And you are probably wondering how, right? Well, here's what I will say. It was not as much about what I did as about what I started to believe. And I want you to really check in with, what am I believing about what's possible for me? When this quantum leap manifested in my life, I started seeing myself as a higher level person who had higher level results, because I was putting myself out there in a higher level way. I was taking bigger action that was in alignment with the new identity I had created for myself, facing fear every single day, right? But I'd gone all in, like really all in, burn the ships type of all in, where there's no turning back. And that, ladies, is, whether we want to hear it or not, that is often what it takes for that type of a quantum leap, is your willingness to go all in on you, to go all in on you. Because the other truth of this is that the size of the risk will determine the size of the reward. And if you want things you've never had, you've got to do things you've never done. You take it one step further. If you want things you've never had, you must become someone you've never been. So with this, I want you to take a moment and think about a goal that you've had for a while that hasn't manifested yet. Okay, so think about that. And here is the key of what you'll have to do. You have to literally create the identity of who you want to become, because your results will never supersede your identity. And so give me just a moment to let some people in here in the waiting room. So you will always and only create results that are in alignment with the identity you hold for yourself. And this is something that I call the identity gap. So your goal is here, but your identity is here, right? And there's this gap between the two. What we have to do to close the gap is to get your identity and your subconscious beliefs to match those of someone who has that result. Because the whole job of your subconscious mind, again, we're not going to go super deep into this today. I'm super available to answer questions when we go into Q&A. But the whole job of your subconscious mind is to make your outer world match your inner world. So whatever it is you believe to be true about yourself, it's going to happen in your life. And so what I would do, I'm going to give you 3 things to do in a moment, but I want to actually give you a bonus before we get into that. Tonight, or if you've got some time after this, I want you to take the time to literally write out, for a woman who has the result that you desire. Like, who is she? Who is that woman? Whether you're going for 50K this year, 100, 500, a million, 5 million, who is the woman? What is the identity of the woman who has that result? What does she think about herself? What does she feel about herself? And what does she do? What are the actions that she takes? What's her calendar like? What's her support team like? What's her schedule like? How does she show up for herself? How does she dress? How does she carry herself? How does she speak about herself? And then 3 other things that you can do. And these were, people ask me, like, how did you go from 100K years to 100K months so fast? These are the 3, like, if I had to really break it down into 3 things, this was it. Number 1, you're going to create a goal card. Now, my spirit animal, Bob Proctor, who is, since departed, but love that man, learned so much from him. He said, if you write down a lie on a sheet of paper and you read it enough, you'll begin to believe it. So your goal card, I'm going to pull one of mine from right here. Just do it on a Post-it note. Doesn't have to be fancy. You're going to write down your goal of what is it that you were claiming for yourself. I am so happy and grateful now that this is my life. And so that's what, like, carried it with me all the time. And it was literally on this little sheet of paper. And I would, ladies, how our clothing goes, usually it's in my bra because I didn't have pockets on, but it would be in a pocket. It would be in my bra. It would be in a purse, but like always, always, always on me, reading it and looking at it all throughout the day, falling in love with that vision. Number 2, act as if. So this becomes your filter for how you evaluate decisions. Whatever the goal is, and I want you to think about the goal for this year too. Like, this year is not over, ladies. We got 3 more months. There's a lot we can do in this amount of time. So for your goal for this year, for the woman who's manifested that goal in her life, what would she do? What action would she take? So this is the acting as if, and I tell you what, it is not about more hustle. I could get on a whole tangent about this. I don't believe in hustle culture. Doing more of what's not working or what's getting you incremental results is not going to get you a quantum leap. It's about stretchy action. It's not the busy, efforting action. And I know this is not what's taught in most sales training. Trust, I get it. I've taught the other way. It was what I was trained on. I did it for 10 years. I got really incremental results and a whole lot of anxiety and stress. This is different. This is about looking at, for a woman who has the results I want, what would she be doing? Would she be stretching herself more? Would she be getting on more platforms? Would she be making that investment in that coach that feels scary? Would she be making that investment in that team member that feels scary? Would she be reaching out to higher level prospects? Would she build her social media brand much more aggressively and get over this fear of visibility thing she's been holding on to for so long? Would she be getting up earlier? Would she be taking better care of herself, right? Talking with more high quality clients. So I want you to look at what would she do? And then you act as if. And this is why it will feel like an out of body experience, because you're going to be doing things you wouldn't normally do, which, no surprise, is going to get you different results. And then number 3, mentorship, working with a mentor or coach who has been there. And when I invested in that coach, it wasn't so much I wanted her to tell me what to do. I wanted to know how she thought, because I knew that 95 to 98% of my results were based on what I believed to be true. And if she was here and I was here, I had a different belief system. And the beauty about the internet today too is you have access to people, right? I mean, I think you always get the best results when you make a financial investment in yourself because you're more committed, and you have access to people, right? Listen to podcasts, read books, etc. Like, start wherever you can, start wherever you have to, but get started and start getting mentorship from someone who has the results you want. So it's really about creating this identity of the person who has the results you want, and then practicing living into it every day. And so as we start to close, and then I want to open up for coaching with anyone who desires it, I want to share a story about what happens when you step into this identity of who you want to be. And then you allow part of that identity to be that you're worthy of making more. And so one of my signature programs is called the 10K Club, and it's for women who want to get to $10,000 months. And last year we had this amazing woman, Rita, who lives in Norway, actually enroll in the program. Let me see, am I share? I'm not sharing my screen. So let me get that back up so you can see Rita. There we go. Yeah. So Rita enrolled in the program. And when you look at Rita, you probably see a woman who looks like she has it all together, right? Beautiful, successful goals. Now, what you don't see up front when you look at Rita is that when we first started working together, I found out about Rita's son, Benjamin. And Benjamin had this extremely rare genetic disorder called Hurler's syndrome, where the average life expectancy is 7. So let me go back. This is Benjamin right here. Now, aside from being an entrepreneur, Rita had also dedicated most of her life to advancing medicine and treatment for people with Hurler's syndrome. And, I used to be able to give this talk and say that her son, Benjamin, is now the oldest living on the planet at the age of 27. And unfortunately, in March of this year, he did pass away. But he truly became one of my heroes. They both became my heroes in the process, and these role models for perseverance, tenacity, and strength. And so when Rita enrolled in the 10K Club, most of the women want to come in there and make their goal is to hit $10,000 months in 90 days. Rita came in though, and she was like, I don't know why, but I want to make $120,000 in 90 days. So that's my goal. And I'm never one to tell someone to think smaller. So I was like, great, let's do it. So we work on her business, we work on her mindset. And she actually didn't hit the goal in 90 days. She didn't make $120,000. She made $240,000 in 90 days. And so Rita is in a position that none of us mind, right? And kind of sitting around saying, what am I going to do with all this money? And sure enough, shortly afterwards, she gets this message on LinkedIn from a man in India. And he says, I've been looking at your posts and your content about Benjamin, and my 1-year-old son, Kashal, was just diagnosed with Hurler's syndrome. We're petrified. We don't know what to do. This seems like a death sentence for Kashal. Yeah, Tanya, kudos, Rita. Exactly. So this is baby Kashal in India. And he was like, please help. We don't know what to do, but please help. So Rita immediately jumps into action mode, gets this dad, this concerned dad, in touch with all of Benjamin's doctors. But the problem is the treatment for this is so expensive. It's literally $1 million for the therapies that are needed for the enzyme replacement. And of course, like this family didn't have that sitting around. Very few families do. But here's what's beautiful. Rita didn't have $1 million sitting around, but she did have enough to help get him started with his first treatment. And she also had the connections to start a fundraiser, which she asked me to contribute to. And because I had been willing to get out of my own way and say yes to the bigness of my desires and create the identity of someone who gives on a large scale, I was able to donate. And we brought together this whole global community to help doing the fundraising for Kashal's treatment. And to this day, he is doing well. Kashal is alive. He is well. He is happy. And so here is the thing with all of this. Yeah, me too, Tanya. It's so powerful. And the ripple effect, right? The full circle ripple effect of you saying yes to more. As an entrepreneur, as an insurance professional, you want to make more money, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You are not wrong for wanting more. And there is always a double blessing in you making more money, right? It's not just the money, it's what the money allows you to do. But you have to feel worthy of what you want. This is the key. Rita felt worthy. That was part of why she was able to step into that and say, I don't want to make $10,000 in 90 days. I want to make 120, right? Because she claimed that for herself. So my final message for you today, before we go into Q&A, is to trust your desire for more for your life, to truly trust it. And if any part of these stories has resonated with you today, and you find yourself craving more, right? Which I know deep in your soul, each of you has a vision for more in your life, whether it's more money, more opportunities, more time freedom, more impact, more joy, more support. Your desires are green lights. Your desires are green lights. They are green lights that will unlock your next level, not just of your career, but of your life as well. And so before I tell this final quick story, I have to give the disclaimer. I'm not advocating that everyone here go out and get a divorce. Okay. So please don't let that be your one takeaway from today's talk. But that is part of my story. And right before my 28th birthday, when I was still kind of in that, that 10-year, just decade of hamster wheel, I found myself in this very unhealthy relationship with someone who was a recovering alcoholic. I was feeling very trapped and very scared of what would happen if I left. And I feared the judgment I thought I would face by being divorced in my 20s. And I wondered, will I ever find love again? What will my life look like on the other side? But there's this beautiful quote from, I don't know if it's Anais Nin or Anais Nin, but I want to share it with you because it really spoke to me. The day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And so I knew I had to leave, even though I had no idea what was on the other side, and knew that I would spend the rest of my life wondering what if I hadn't trusted my instincts. And so I made the leap. I left the relationship, and I'm not going to lie, just like the quantum leap financially, like this leap wasn't easy either. It wasn't easy or clean. It was very hard. But 6 months to the day of making that decision, I met this man named Jason. Within 5 minutes of meeting him, and I wasn't looking, like literally I wasn't looking. Within 5 minutes of meeting him, I knew he was the one. Not only has he become the one, but he is also now the father to my incredible son, Jack. And, I look back on the journey. I'll share a little family picture there. Yeah, there's Jack in the middle. I look back at this journey and say, if I hadn't trusted myself, either with the financial leap, with the family change, with the marriage change, not only would I not have the career and financial success that I feel privileged to have now, but I would never have met my soulmate, and we would never have had our beautiful little boy. And so the key to this, the key to superhuman selling, the key to you unlocking that quantum leap in your life is literally to trust yourself, trust your desires for more, trust that something doesn't feel right if you've been stuck for a while, trust that if you've been trying something a certain way for a period of time and it hasn't been working, that maybe there's another way. Trust that you are worthy of more. Trust that voice in yourself that says, yes, like I claim more for my life. I'm done with being stuck at this level. But here's the key with all of it. If you want it, you have to be it. And that what you want wants you back. And so, ladies, I'm going to share, I so appreciate your time today. I'm going to share 2 ways to connect from here, and then I want to open it up for live coaching. So if you have a question, if you have something specific, I so loved and appreciated the engagement in the chat. Please type your name in the chat and I'll ask you to come off mute and we'll talk. I'd love to coach you on anything. I mean, we didn't get into like super tactical business. I'm very available for that. I've done that for years, so I'm happy to help you with that. And if this brought up a part of you that's like, I've been wanting more for a long time, I haven't experienced it yet, I want to get to the root of it and finally get off that hamster wheel, I'm like, that's my jam. That's my specialty. So I'm here to help with that too. So please type your name in the chat if you would like to talk through, your specific situation. With that, 2 ways we can connect from here as well. So we've got a freebie, ElyseArcher.com/scripts, where you'll get a different take on sales coaching that I think is far more aligned for us as women. It's 5 sales scripts to increase your closing rate 50% or more. So you can grab that. And I promise it is not hard closing or pushing anyone, but they work really well. And then if you would like to schedule some time to connect beyond this, ElyseArcher.com/free call. You can go in there. It'll ask some specific questions about your situation. Put in there that you came from Women of Insurance as well. And then I'll know that you came from this event. And I'm more than available and happy to schedule some time for us to connect one-on-one as well, if you would like to speak about, coaching or support beyond here. So yeah, I'm getting a couple messages from some of you that you'd like to talk privately. Beautiful. If you'd like to talk privately, you can go to the free call link. You can also send me a DM on LinkedIn or, well, actually, no, let me not tell you a million places to go. You can go to my website, ElyseArcher.com, you can do the free call link, or you can fill out a contact form. If you want to schedule a call about inquiring about coaching, I will direct you right to the free call link. So you might as well fill that one out to get started. But does anyone have a question that they would like to receive coaching on now? And you can also just come off mute. We're a small enough group that's fine too. But here's one thing I'll say too. Sometimes we have something and we're like, I don't want to share that publicly. And that's fine. And I promise you, there is not a woman in here who cannot relate to some extent with what it is that you're going through and would like support around. And other women are truly blessed by you showing up and saying, hey, this is what's going on for me. Here's where I'm stuck, because I promise you there's someone else in this group that would love the answer that you're also seeking as well. So does anyone have a question? Does anyone want to come off mute? You can ask a question about what we talked about today, a specific question on your business. Tanya?
Hi, this is Kenya. I just wanted to make sure. Yes. Everything that you spoke to really spoke to me dearly, because sometimes when you procrastinate, I have procrastinated in the past. I'm trying to get out of that window, and you just really spoke to me about going back to my board, writing things out, and really just building my vision and believing in the vision. So I wanted to thank you for this session today, because this was spot on. And I believe every woman that was on this call needed to hear, like, hey, it's a mountain, but you can overcome that mountain. You just have to say out loud, you need help. So I thank you.
Oh, absolutely, Tanya. Thank you so much for that. I'm so glad it spoke to you. And yeah, with the procrastination piece too. I mean, if you want to go deeper into that, we can. I know it used
Yes,
to be.
let's go ahead.
Yeah, totally. Okay, great. So thank you. No, thank you for being available for coaching. This is my favorite thing to do. So can you give me maybe a few more specifics on like what are the specific things you find yourself procrastinating around, and then we can talk to that.
Oh, one of the things that I do, I overanalyze,
Okay.
and it kind of leads you to like, I'm going to put it off until
Mm,
I have all the information and where I feel as though I'm comfortable enough to execute.
mhm.
And doing that, it sends procrastination because just do it. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Just do it. And
Yeah.
it kind of takes me out of my comfort zone because I'm a person that plans things and it has to be done. And I don't like to make mistakes.
Mm,
So I'm learning right now because I just don't do it. I'm spending too much time analyzing which is leading to procrastination or delays.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm certain other women can relate. And is the analyzing and the procrastination, I'm assuming, is like specifically, is it around sales related outreach?
It is, yes, it's definitely around sales, putting yourself in the mindset,
Mhm.
accept rejection, being available for rejection, and how do you overcome rejection? You know, you
Yeah.
wake up and you're like happy go lucky with these goals, and then, say, for instance, you make 20 phone calls and nothing happened, and you're like, I had so much energy, I had so much high hope. When
Mm,
it comes tomorrow, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to come up with a different plan. Then Wednesday comes, and then you still haven't executed that, into that hamster wheel and making that phone call. Now it's Thursday, now it's Friday, and you still haven't got that because of the rejection, which led to your procrastination. A
sure.
little bit of anxiety.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And there's so much we could speak to there. So I'll do my best to keep it concise. Um, I think one of the things, this is one of the biggest game changers for me when I really applied this mindset to my sales process, is we get to be attached to what, but not how and not who. So to any extent that any of you find yourself making a client, making a prospect God, right? Like if they buy from me, then I'll be set. If they don't buy from me, I'm not going to hit my goals. And this is easy to do, right? Like I've done it, you've done it, we've all done it. It is not our job to decide who our clients are or how they come in. I could tell you story after story after story of how this has happened in my, I'll tell you one super quick. And part of this too is being very open to, as you study more of the subconscious mind and how it works, and you realize that when you really accept and believe that this goal that you have is true for yourself, it will happen. Like it has to. It's the whole job of your subconscious mind to make it happen for you, but it won't always come in ways that you expect. So, quick example. Last year, we were running a program and we had sold a program a certain way for 6, 7, 8 months, and it had done really well every single time. We do it again. It's a big flat zero. Like we did the same process, the same thing we had always done. And it came back with a goose egg. I had like 2 women sign up for the free training that was supposed to enroll them into the program. I was like, what in the world? Right. So my ego took over. I went into fear. I went into what's wrong. This isn't working. But here's what happened. One of those 2 women asked for a private call with me, and we talk, and it was like a 20-minute call, and it was a hell yes for her for private coaching. And in her signing up for private coaching, it was the revenue goal we had for the whole group program that I was planning on enrolling in. And so it was such a beautiful lesson in non-attachment to who is your client and how they come in. And so this, to me, anytime we're stuck in procrastination, perfectionism, I think, Tanya, you nailed it with the over analyzing. Anytime we find ourselves over analyzing, we know immediately we're out of alignment, because it's not actually your job to determine the how or the who. So this is where we get to kind of skip the hows and go straight to the end result we're looking for. There's a phenomenal book by Price Pritchett, The Quantum Leap Strategy, which if you want to learn more of like the mindset behind this is when I look back at my own quantum leap, I didn't know that I was doing the things in his book, but I did. You don't need to worry about the how. You don't need to worry about the how. Your job is to get clear on the vision, fall in love with the vision, and then say, what would the woman who has this vision do every day? And keep coming back to the vision, keep coming back to the vision, keep coming back to the vision. And then the rejection piece, we can make it mean a lot of things that it doesn't, right? This is again when our ego, and I'm saying this as someone who I get to work on this every day too. When our ego kicks in and tells us a story that we're being rejected, number one, they're not rejecting you, right? I'm sure you've had people come to you and try to sell you something or offer something, and it's like, it wasn't the right time or it wasn't in alignment. You're not rejecting them as a person. You're probably just busy, or you were like, this just doesn't jive with me right now, but it's not them personally. But here's the other thing too. What's the worst case scenario? So this is a game we can play with ourselves. If your brain is going into fear mode, if it's like, oh, what if I reach out and they say no? What's the worst case scenario? It's that they say no. Maybe they really are kind of a bit of a pill, and they like curse you out, or they say, don't ever call me. Like, that's happened to me. It could happen, right? Can you handle it? Yeah, because anyone who's going to do that to you, go ahead, Tanya. You were about to say something.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's like, okay, thank God, amen, they're not my client, because I don't want to work with that person. But then second, the worst case scenario is that they're not your client. Well, guess what? They're already not your client. So you're already living out your worst case scenario. So what's the worst that happens? You go for it, and either you stay where you are. This is the thing we don't get. We're already living our worst case scenario. So when we can accept that, and we can say, well, by going for it and seeking failure, this is actually oh my gosh, all of us I generally don't like making blanket statements. I'll speak to myself. I'll speak to the women in the She Sells community. In general, many of us have been trained and brought up that we can't make mistakes. You have to seek failure. When you're going for the quantum leap, you have to make it a goal that you're going to go screw something up. You have to make it a goal that you're going to mess up, because guess what? That's the only way that you're going to really get to that next level, is by seeking that failure and by being okay with it not going the way you thought, because you want to make it a goal. What can I learn? And guess what? Along the way of doing that, you're going to sign some clients. Like, you're going to actually get some more customers than you would have had otherwise. And so remember, what, but not how. What, but not who or how. Seek failure. You're already living the worst case, so it can only get better from here. hopefully that helps a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Tanya.
That was very informative. And that shows you the importance of shifting your mindset and your preparation, like building your day or surrounding your day around saying, okay, everybody's not going to give me a yes. I'm after the person that's going to give me a yes.
Yeah.
So just like that, you just shift your mindset. Okay, he or she said no, the next person going to tell me yes. And I just got to remind myself, until I get to that person that say yes, they want this product. Now I'm successful. Now I'm ready to just keep going until everybody keeps saying yes.
Yes. Yes. And one step further, if I can, we have to redefine success. If we say I'm only successful when someone says yes, we really limit the lane of success for ourselves. So a while back in my life, this is another, sermon for another day, but I redefined success in my life as happiness. And I would invite you to look at, for you, what does success mean for me? Does success mean I went out and I did it? Like I did what I said I was going to do, right? When we put our definition of success in somebody else's hands, it's, we can't control that. right? But so for each of you, really defining what is my success going to be? Is it that I showed up how I wanted to show up? Is it I did what I said I was going to do? Is it that I went all in? Is it that I put myself out there, right? Because you can control that. And the results follow. They always do. The money always follows. You don't need to worry about that part. But define success for yourself. I will go ahead and we'll wrap up for today. I'm so grateful, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me. For those of you who were here live, so good spending time with you. Thank you for the engagement in the chat. Again, you can go to elisearcher.com/scripts for the free training. You can go to elisearcher.com/free call, mention that you were referred by Women of Insurance, and we'll schedule some time to connect about your vision and goals for the next chapter of your career. Super grateful to each of you. Thank you so, so much. Take care.